I want to thank everybody for being here today. My name is Terry Scott. I'm the B-17 Alliance Executive Director. I've been working on collecting stories for almost 20 years. I'm very passionate about the preservation of this history and recognizing a great era for our country. I really believe that the World War II generation pulled together for our country and made us who we are, strengthened us in many ways. And this B-17 bomber is an aircraft that has hundreds of stories it can tell. And I'm really blessed that I get to share these stories every day. So thank you for being here today to help us collect more of the real stories. Butler. Now, Ruth, you don't look old enough to be in World War II.
Oh, I love people when they say that.
Can you tell me what you were doing during World War II?
Yes, I was an airplane mechanic and for the Army Air Force in Great Falls, Montana.
Mm-hmm. A mechanic, a woman mechanic.
Yes, my husband was stationed there. He was drafted and sent to there because he was an airplane mechanic in Pocatello, Idaho before he was drafted. But at that time, they weren't taking soldiers overseas that had dependents. And so he was just working more or less there as a soldier. And so I decided to go to Great Falls to live with him. And I was only 20 years old, and I had a son that was 9 months old. And I moved up there to be there with him.
So he lived on the base?
He had permission to live off the base, and there wasn't any place in Great Falls to live. There was other Army wives there, and other people had come into Great Falls, so that there wasn't anything available, and we finally found a tourist cabin to live in. And of course, Army pay wasn't very great, and jobs for women at that time weren't very plentiful. And they advertised, Gorefield had an advertisement in the paper that they were taking civilians to train them to be mechanics because there was a shortage of soldiers for it, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it included women. And so I applied for it, and they accepted me.
Good for you.
And
mm-hmm. So then what exactly did you do?
Exactly, I was called a governor specialist because I took the governors off of the airplanes, climbed up on the ladder to get them in the coldest weather in the United States. And the governor governed the pitch of the propeller. It's how the propeller screws through the air. Mm-hmm. It governed that pitch. I don't know exactly how, but it
directed the angle of the propeller?
Yes, that's it. Mm-hmm. And it was very important that have inspections every so many hours, like 24-hour inspections, 100-hour inspections, and so forth, you know. And so it had to be taken off when the plane stopped there. And the planes were stopping there. All these planes that you see out of McMinnville have been there. And I might have worked on one of those, I don't know. And they were stopping there on their way to Russia because we were allies with Russia at that time. And so they were being whatever they serviced and tested there at Great Falls. And there were 2 air bases there. One of them was called Gorefield, and the other one was called East Base. And my husband was stationed at East Base, and I worked at Gorefield.
You said the Russians were our allies. Was that the beginning or end?
It was in 1943. They were allies then.
Interesting. I did a study. I had a volunteer one time look up allies and Axis And he said, well, what part of the war did you want that done on? So it was interesting to me that you said that, because it changed as we evolved through the war. So, how long were you a governess?
Well, after the battles in Europe they were killing off so many soldiers, Battle of the Bulge and those great battles, that they sent people with dependents then. And so my husband was transferred into the Army, taken out of the Air Force and put in the Army, and sent to Germany. And it so happened that he got there right away after the war was settled. And so after the war, he had to stay there and guard prisoners of war. I think it was almost a year.
After did you always stay during that time? You said to 19...
Yes, I stayed there till he left, and then I had to call my family to come and get me and take me home. In the meantime, my son, at that air base there had been an epidemic of meningitis, excuse me, and my son got a meningitis, my baby. He was 10 months old, and he was left deaf after that. And so I had...
That's a pretty serious, meningitis is
Yes.
pretty serious.
But there was 37, I think, cases of meningitis at the air base, and I think most of them was left with some disability, of the soldiers.
Wow, and so after that, did we start vaccinating for that?
I don't remember.
You don't remember that part? Interesting. There's a little tidbit on the history of that time.
Yeah.
So, did you ever go overseas? Did you always stay in the States?
I might add a little bit about that. That was when the sulfa drug first came out, and that they used that sulfa drug then on my son, and that saved his life.
Oh, well, good. Good.
Okay, now the question again.
Did you ever go overseas, or did you always stay in the States?
No, I came home to Idaho Falls, Idaho,
Mhm.
and stayed there.
Right. So what do you remember about the war?
I keep comparing wars now that we have with that one. And the one thing that I think we did better in that time was let the public know more how it was, and more about the battles. And when the boys came home, there was more, I think, and the news, like Kaltenborg, I can't remember his name, but all the news people were so informative that we knew what was going on and I think we felt more deeply than we seem to now about this. And that was supposed to be the war that ends all wars. It was the second one that was going to end all wars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I remember.
Mm-hmm. You came out of the home to work. Before that, women were taking care of their families, working on the farm,
Yes.
doing simple jobs.
Yes.
So what did you experience from that, from being a mechanic, a woman mechanic?
I was treated very, very well by the soldiers. They helped me, and they sympathized with the fact that it was a hard adjustment, because I was only 20 years old, and they were too, I guess, a lot of them. And I especially think about a lieutenant that was a supervisor. Sometimes there absolutely wasn't anything to do. You know, the planes weren't coming in, but you were supposed to be busy. That was one. There was but there wasn't anything, and I used to kind of hide behind the. Because I knew he would walk by the windows and look in there, and I'd kind of get back behind the machine and let him think I was somewhere else, I guess. It was a lot of fun. It was one of the most interesting and fascinating times of my life. wouldn't have traded it for anything to get to help in the war effort.
I
And
hear, yeah, I hear that a lot.
oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah. No, I hear that a lot. People just wanted to do their part to help win the war.
yes, because we knew how they were, and the people they didn't want to go kill people, you know.
Mm-hmm. They only did it because they had to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think about that too, you know. I don't think they really thought about what they were doing. They were just doing it because they knew they had to.
No. Well, they were trained
Mm-hmm.
that they had to do that.
Mm-hmm. So what would you like people to remember? What were the good things that came out of that?
Does there any good ever come out of war? I don't know. Things changed a lot after the war. Women were advanced, I guess you'd call it. They got to leave their homes and go get jobs. Now they all have to work.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out if that was a good thing or not.
Yeah. Was it good or not? I don't know.
Right. Did you feel special being able to be a mechanic on an aircraft?
I'll say, yeah, I'm proud of that. That's why I came here. I wanted people to know that I did that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty important.
Yeah.
Right. You were helping the men overseas.
Yeah.
They couldn't have done it without you.
The minute I saw that in the paper, I just thought, I want people to know that I did that.
Good. Good. Good for you. So you were a governess, not a Rosie the Riveter. So that's a new title. We like that.
Yeah, because I sometimes when I tell people that I was an airplane mechanic, oh, Rosie the Riveter, they'll say.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, no, I think I did a different job than that.
So specific aircraft, which ones do you remember working on?
Oh, I remember C-47. That was a cargo, a big plane, really a big one. And the P-29s, all those out there, but I can't remember the what is it?
B-17.
B-17? I
Mhm.
really don't remember that name.
Well, maybe they just didn't have it in your factory.
Maybe not.
Mm-hmm. What corporation did you work for?
Well, it was the Army Air Force.
Okay.
Because they changed it from Army Air Force to Air Force now. It isn't connected with the Army at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it was then.
Did I ask you about a memorable moment? Do you have a memorable moment that sticks out in your mind?
About my job?
Mm-hmm.
I think I told it to you when I told you I was hiding behind the...
Didn't want to get in trouble.
Well, I remember how cold it was in that town. And of course I remember about my son, what happened to him there, you know. I remember, I have an excellent memory. It's just kind of short.
Mm-hmm. So, but you told me what you felt. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your story today?
I hope that things like this that you're doing will help us get along with each other in other countries and every place. I just hope and pray that someday mankind can be kind to each other, and that something like this will help them learn to be that way.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose one of my driving goals is that we as Americans can learn from each other and be inspired by what you did for our country, and inspire others to be better Americans. That's kind of what I want to come out of it too.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Anyone have any questions? Anything that you remember her telling you about that we didn't talk about?
How much did Grandpa talk about the war when he came back?
Well, it was very, very hard for him to even think about butchering a calf. And this war was very hard on him, even though he didn't actually participate in the battles. But he was guarding prisoners of war, and he saw cruel, mean men, and he saw decent, wonderful people in Germany. And he talked about that. I met a lady that she's in a writing group that I'm in that was raised during that period of time in Germany. She was a child then. She was a little younger than me. Her story is sad.
The gentleman following you was a German POW. So we're going to hear his story.
It was a sad time in history, and then it was also a gathering time in history.
Do you feel like America pulled together in an effort, a common effort? I always look at it as the one for all for one era.
Yeah, it was. People were looking out for each other here in the United States too at that time. We'd just gone through the Great Depression, and I mean we were in it during this time, and then it was better later.
Right.
Yeah.
You had the ration tickets.
Yeah.
Did you have a ration ticket book?
Yes. And another kind of interesting thing that may not have been mentioned was the mail that the soldiers sent home. It was all, of course, censored, and there'd be censored things in the letter, and they were on a little black and white, I don't know what it was. What did they call those letters? From
Not the airmail, the V-mail.
V-mail, wasn't it? Yeah, victory mail.
There's one in the case in the museum over there.
Oh, there is?
Announcing the first child.
Yeah, I have one somewhere at home. Along with my certificate that says I'm a master mechanic that I can't find.
Oh, well, we want to see that when you find it. That's good.
May not be able to find it with all the other collections that's in that house over the years.
There's a lot of stuff, I'm sure. Everybody has a lot of stuff.
Oh.
Well, I really appreciate you coming by today. and
Thank
sharing.
you for letting me express my feelings.
Oh, wonderful. I'm really glad you did. We'll do it again another time. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get you unhooked here.
Oh, I was going with that.
You're going to just go home with it, right? I'm trying to save your battery by turning it off in between. Okay, so if you folks want to take a little walk around, Butch, you're just in time to give them a tour.
I'm here.